The wind moans through the skeletal branches of blackened elms as Dr. Alira Cade steps out of her rust-red Subaru, her boots crunching on gravel dusted with frost. The New England town of Gallows Hill clings to its fog like a secret it refuses to share. Its brick buildings sag with damp, and faded, missing posters flap like dying flags on telephone poles. A former Army trauma surgeon turned forensic pathologist, Alira has spent the last 2 years isolating herself among dead files and half-buried truths, yet even she can't ignore the trail left by a recent corpse found cold on the floor of Sable Heights Medical. In a refrigerated morgue drawer, Alira examines a stool sample from the deceased patient, a middle-aged man who coded during a routine colonoscopy with no evident cause. The vial is labeled in ancient Latin, Testimonium Corporis, etched not with modern ink, but something that looks burned into the glass. Nearby, the wooden stool the man sat on during intake is preserved as evidence, its seat worn smooth by decades of use, but its legs carved with grotesque, humanoid faces twisted in agony and laughter, as if bearing witness. As Alira digs deeper, she uncovers a disturbing pattern: patients who vanished, mysterious gastrointestinal failures, and a disturbing recurrence of the word stool across medical reports, blueprints, and journal entries. But this word doesn't point to one thing. It's a polysemantic riddle: a seat, a sample, a ledge, a symbol. What begins as a clinical curiosity soon reveals itself to be part of a much older ritual, one in which bodily waste becomes testimony, furniture becomes conduit, and the architecture itself remembers. Sable Heights Sanitarium rises like a forgotten wound at the edge of Gallows Hill, its slate roof splintered, its stonework sick with moss, and its entrance chained with rusted iron. Once a 19th-century psychiatric asylum, the facility has recently been reopened under a government-funded digestive research initiative, though much of the lower levels remain untouched. As Alira walks the sterile hallways repainted in pale green, a chill persists in the air, one that the fluorescent lights can't quite push back, and beneath the chemical antiseptic, she swears she smells mildew, chalk dust, and something organic. In a forgotten wing once used as a physician's lounge, Alira discovers a lone mahogany bar stool positioned dead center in the room, as if waiting. Its wood is dark and glossy, yet warm to the touch, and every inch of it is hand-carved with grotesque expressions, some laughing, others weeping, some with their mouths sealed shut. A surviving nurse, visibly shaken, whispers that patients spoke of this exact stool in their dreams, referring to it only as the witness seat, and begged never to be near it. A technician with trembling hands escorts Alira to Vault A, a secure sublevel archive where stool samples from critical patients are cryogenically stored for analysis. The steel door groans open like a tomb, revealing long rows of vials labeled with names that match hospital missing person records, a connection no one seems willing to acknowledge. In the flickering light, Alira notices a symbol etched above the doorframe in chalk, 3 concentric circles around a stool-shaped glyph, and she realizes this isn't a modern facility. It's a relic built atop something far more ancient, and it never stopped collecting. Back in her temporary lab, Alira prepares a test run on one of the older stool samples, unaware that the temperature in the vial has shifted on its own. Under magnification, the fecal matter reveals not just human bacteria, but living fungal spores with crystalline tendrils, responding to the lab light like they're aware. The DNA strain she isolates is ancient, not cataloged in any known database, but it shares a marker she recognizes instantly, a blood pattern she saw during a military deployment in a remote Afghan village, where the sick spoke in forgotten tongues before dying with their eyes wide open. Exploring the patient intake wing, Alira notices the building's architecture deviates in subtle but deliberate ways. Stone ledges, called stools in structural terms, jut out under every window, but they're too low and too deep to be decorative. One such ledge bears faint burn marks and what appear to be nail scratches, as though someone tried desperately to pull themselves off it. Pulling a loose brick free, Alira uncovers a sealed journal, wrapped in stained linen, the pages within detail a 1907 ritual called The Purging of Memory Through Seat and Soil. That night, Alira pores over digital archives and handwritten records, discovering that multiple patients once admitted for basic gastrointestinal exams had no official discharge paperwork, only redacted files and missing person reports that quietly vanished from public databases. Each of their intake sheets contains an obscure medical note: pre-cleansing, sample collected post-confession. As she overlays building schematics from 1906 with the current hospital map, a clear pattern emerges. The Stool sample storage vault, the patient lounge, and the ledges beneath the windows all form a perfect triangle, a containment diagram, not for holding samples, but for trapping something alive. In the cold, dimly lit archive room of Vault A, Alira stumbles upon a sealed containment drawer labeled Legacy Samples, Do Not Disturb. Inside, she finds a glass vial older than any she's seen, etched not with a printed label, but hand-carved Latin. Testimonium corporis, the body's testimony. Unlike the others, this sample pulses faintly with an inner luminescence. When she shines her penlight through it, she sees shifting shadows inside, like shapes pressing against the glass, whispering not words, but memories. A hidden projector in the archivist's office flickers to life on its own. On the grainy 1969 footage, a stone-faced doctor addresses the camera.
The witness seat is not for comfort. It is for confession. What the body refuses to speak, the waste reveals.
He goes on to describe how patients were sat on a carved stool, asked to recall trauma, and then their post-confession stool samples were analyzed, not for disease, but for ancestral residue. As the footage ends, Alira freezes. On the screen behind the doctor stands a young girl, clutching a doll, wearing the same bracelet Alira now wears. Trembling, Alira retrieves her own medical records from the personnel archive and discovers a sealed folder marked Cade, Alira, Contingency Subject 3. Inside are images of her as a child at Sable Heights, dosed, tested, seated on the witness stool during a long-discontinued trial known as Project Reflux. Her blood type, her family history, even her fecal samples were cataloged as perfect specimens for memory extraction. Her father, thought to have died overseas, was one of the program's founders. He didn't vanish. He volunteered her. Guided by the symbol patterns and blueprints, Alira uncovers a sealed passage behind the cryo vault, a stone stairwell spiraling downward, slick with condensation and lined with whispering ventilation shafts. At the bottom lies a chamber carved directly into bedrock, pulsing with fungal growth that glows a soft amber. In its center stands a massive wooden stool, ancient and cracked but humming with heat. Its legs are carved with contorted human faces that twist and breathe, and Alira realizes they aren't decorations. They're preserved expressions, captured mid-scream by some unspeakable process. When Alira accidentally drops the Latin-labeled vial onto the stone floor, it shatters, and the dark, shimmering sample inside spills across the ground like oil, before instantly absorbing into the room itself. The fungal roots embedded in the walls jerk alive, slithering toward the witness stool, feeding off the released memory, causing the wood to twitch and splinter as if reborn. The carved faces begin to murmur in fragmented whispers, each one voicing memories from those who died here, screaming about what they gave up, what they confessed, and how the building itself learned to remember through waste. Suddenly gripped by an invisible force, Alira is pulled onto the witness stool. Her muscles lock, and her mouth opens against her will as memories long buried rip to the surface. Her childhood in the hospital, the failed trials, her father's voice reading Latin lullabies as she wept in pain. A warm sensation floods her lower abdomen, and a modern stool sample is excreted involuntarily into a now exposed stone basin beneath the chair. As the fluid touches the basin's grooves, an ancient glyph ignites, completing a biological circuit, and Alira understands, this isn't a chair. It's a throne, one built to record, digest, and eternally preserve human suffering. As the glyphs complete their glow, the chamber shudders, not collapsing, but awakening. Along the walls, ancient sample drawers begin sliding open on their own, releasing faint vapors and moaning echoes. Dozens of preserved fecal vials, each containing someone's last confession. Above her, the ceiling cracks open to reveal an archaic air shaft shaped like a vented windpipe, and Elira realizes the hospital's architecture was always a body, a digestive system designed to consume secrets, metabolize memory, and excrete power for an unknown benefactor. In a final act of defiance, Elira tries to destroy the stool with a fire axe, but the wood bleeds, and a new face forms in its grain, her own. Her voice echoes from the carvings even after she stops speaking, repeating her confession on an endless loop, now part of the structure's archive. A single Latin phrase burns itself onto the walls around her.
Nihil vir paret, testis manae. Nothing truly dies. The witness remains.
When morning comes, the hospital appears calm. Authorities claim a gas leak caused hallucinations. The cryovault is sealed. Elira is found in a chair in the admin wing, silent, eyes open, discharged from all service records. In the final shot, a new doctor walks past her into the lower levels. The stool is waiting. So is the neck sample.
Disclaimer: the story presented here is purely a work of fiction and is created for entertainment purposes. Any resemblance to actual locations, events, or individuals is coincidental. The narrative does not intend to portray any place in a negative light, nor does it aim to harm or defame the reputation of any location. For those who enjoy stories in the thriller genre, feel free to subscribe to the Thrill Lab channel to stay updated on upcoming thrilling tales.